Before we say a single word, listen to this.
That some of your worst nightmares were real at the time, and you think,
That is an Oscar-winning director, a man who has spent decades inside the most powerful entertainment machine on Earth. And he just told you on camera that his worst nightmares about Hollywood were real. Now listen to this.
I don't want to say names because I don't want to get sued. And I don't want to be dead.
An Academy Award-winning screenwriter, the man who co-wrote Pulp Fiction, afraid to say names, afraid to end up dead. And now this.
Everything that happens in a business that's based off of pretend, that seems like a setup.
Yes.
3 men, 3 different corners of the entertainment industry, all pointing at the same thing. But here's what nobody is connecting. Katt Williams has been saying this for over a decade. Mel Gibson has been saying it for longer than that. And every single time either one of them opened their mouth, the industry came after them hard. So the question isn't whether Hollywood has a dark side. We're past that. The question is, how deep does the sacrifice really go? And why are Katt Williams and Mel Gibson the only 2 people in the room willing to say it out loud? This is the story they don't want you to hear. Let's establish something right up front. This isn't about one bad producer. It's not about one rogue director or one isolated incident on one movie set. What Katt Williams and Mel Gibson are describing, what they have both been describing separately for years, is a system, a machine, a set of rules that governs who gets famous, what they have to give up to get there, and what happens to them if they ever try to speak about it afterward. And the most important thing to understand about this system is that it has been in place for a very, very long time. Shirley Temple sat down on CNN's Larry King Live on October 25th, 1988, 36 years ago, and described being separated from her mother at MGM when she was 12 years old, walked into an executive's office. And what she found there wasn't a movie deal.
I went into the office of Arthur Freed, and he was going to talk to me about a movie he wanted to put me in. I'm 12 years old, you know. And I thought he was a producer, but instead he was an exhibitor. And I'd never seen anyone naked before, except myself. So I had no clue about what was happening. And so it struck me so funny, I laughed at him. And I laughed uproariously.
12 years old, separated from her mother, alone in a room with a powerful man who thought she was his to do with as he pleased. And Shirley Temple was lucky. She laughed. She walked out. Most kids didn't get that outcome. Now here's what makes that story even more disturbing. That wasn't a secret. That interview aired on national television in 1988, and nothing changed. The industry absorbed it, moved on, and kept operating exactly the same way. Because here's the thing about Hollywood's dark machinery, it doesn't survive through secrecy alone. It survives through normalization. It survives because generation after generation of powerful people told the next generation, this is just how it works. This is the deal. This is the price of the ticket. Mel Gibson understood this the moment he arrived in Hollywood. He was young, he was an outsider coming in from Australia, and from day one, something felt deeply wrong. He couldn't put his finger on it. Nobody was explaining it to him. Nobody was going to.
you know, I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
Right.
And nobody was really bothering to explain it to me.
That's deliberate. The confusion is part of the design. You're not supposed to understand right away. You're supposed to be disoriented, isolated, dependent on the people already inside the machine to tell you how to survive it. And by the time you figure out what's really being asked of you, you're already in too deep to walk away without losing everything. Mel Gibson eventually figured it out, and when he did, it shook him to his core. He
You realize that it is true. And you have to, I just left for a while and
bought land in Australia, dug holes, put up fences, raised cattle. A man who had won the Academy Award, who had directed one of the most celebrated films of the decade, retreating to a farm in the Southern Hemisphere because he couldn't stomach what he'd seen inside the most glamorous industry on Earth. That tells you everything you need to know. And Katt Williams coming at this from a completely different angle, from stand-up comedy, from Black Hollywood, from a world that has its own specific and brutal version of this machine. Katt Williams reached the exact same conclusion. The system is real. The rituals are real, and the people who run it will do whatever it takes to protect themselves. Now let's talk about what this machine actually demands, because it's not enough to just say Hollywood is dark. Everyone knows Hollywood is dark. The question is, what specifically does it ask of people? What are the terms of the deal? What exactly does sacrifice look like in practice? According to Katt Williams, one of the most visible and consistent forms of ritual humiliation in Black Hollywood is the dress. And before you roll your eyes, before you dismiss that as too simple, too trivial to be significant, listen to what Katt actually says about it.
A ritual is something that you do over and over and over again a certain way. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If part of the ritual is wearing a dress, then we should be able to look through entertainment and see all of these people being made to wear a dress.
That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a pattern analysis. And when you actually look at the data Big Mama's House, White Chicks, Norbit, the SNL skit, film after film after film, the pattern is undeniable. Every major black male entertainer in Hollywood has had this moment. Will Smith, Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence, Kevin Hart, the list goes on, and the ones who refused. Watch what happened to them. Dave Chappelle is the most important case study here because Dave didn't just quietly decline. He documented the pressure campaign in real time. He described walking into his trailer on a movie set and finding a dress waiting for him. No discussion, no script notes. Just here's what you're wearing today.
So I walk in the trailer. I'm like, man, this must be the wrong trailer because there's a dress in here. They come in. The writer comes in. I think he's the writer. He's like, Dave, listen, we got this hilarious scene where Martin's sneaking out of jail. So he disguises you as a prostitute. And he put this dress on. And what? The prostitute? Nah, I'm not doing that. I don't feel comfortable with that. That should have been in the discussion. What? You don't feel comfortable with it? I mean, it's a hilarious bit. All the greats have done it. So, well, if all the greats have done it, it's kind of hacky, right? You're a writer. So why don't we just not do it? Because I don't feel comfortable wearing a dress. Oh, come on, Dave. Listen, we got it all set up. We're supposed to shoot. Every minute you waste costs this much money.
That's not a creative decision. That's a test. And Dave Chappelle knew it was a test, which is exactly why he refused and why the industry's response was so extreme. Think about what happened to Dave after that. He was offered $50 million for his show, the hottest show on television at the time, and he walked away from it, not because of the money. He walked away because he understood what accepting meant.
I wasn't crazy, but it's incredibly stressful.
Yeah.
And I feel like in a lot of instances, I was deliberately being put through stress.
Deliberately. He used that word deliberately. The stress wasn't accidental. The chaos wasn't coincidental. It was engineered, designed to break him down, to make him compliant, to get him to that place where he'd put on the dress and cash the check and stop asking questions. And when Dave refused when he let go of the salt, as he described it, the machine turned on him immediately. He fled to Africa. And when he came back, the narrative was already set. Dave Chappelle was crazy. Dave Chappelle had lost his mind. The same playbook they ran on Mariah Carey, on Martin Lawrence, on everyone who stepped out of line. Katt Williams saw this pattern playing out in real time. He watched it happen to people he knew, and he did what almost nobody else in his position was willing to do. He talked about it out loud.
Us are against the Illuminati, and we are against the Illuminati at our own detriment. When people are against the Illuminati, then they get punched in the face all the time. The press hates them, and nobody likes them. End quote.
We all love Dave Chappelle.
Exactly. Dave Chappelle has never been a part of the Illuminati. They don't want him or me or people like us.
Yeah.
But now it's not necessary for us to stir up that hornet's nest unless we intend to get stung 1,000,000 times. I didn't understand that. They had to sting me 1,000,000 times. I'm still not going to join.
That is a man who has counted the cost. He knows exactly what speaking out has meant for his career, for his reputation, for his life. And he's decided to do it anyway. Now here's where Mel Gibson's experience becomes critically important, because what Mel describes isn't just about Black Hollywood. It's about the entire system. And the most disturbing part of what Mel witnessed wasn't what was being done to adults. It was what was being done to children and how the adults in those children's lives responded. If there is a single thread that runs through every piece of testimony we've covered in this video, from Shirley Temple in 1988, to Mel Gibson, to Katt Williams, to Corey Feldman, to Elijah Wood, to Terrence Howard, to Joe Rogan, it is this: Hollywood preys on children, and the adults around those children let it happen. Mel Gibson said it. He didn't code it. He didn't dance around it. Every horror story you've ever heard about Hollywood is true, and the most evil things you can think of happening right there in the industry.
You imagine all these horror stories there that you think, boy, it seems as if I'm being sacrificed over here. No, that couldn't be true. And then you realize that it is true.
What horrified Mel specifically, and this is important, wasn't just the abuse itself. It was the parents. The mothers and fathers who brought their children to Hollywood knowing what the industry demanded, who sat in waiting rooms while things happened to their kids in offices, who went home and said nothing because the checks kept clearing. That's not naivety, that's complicity. And it's been baked into the system from the beginning. In 2011, Corey Feldman went on record saying he and other child actors in the 1980s were systematically abused by people with enormous power in the entertainment industry.
I can tell you that the #1 problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be pedophilia. There was a circle of older men that surrounded themselves around this group of kids.
A circle, not one predator, not one bad apple. A circle, an organized network of adults who specifically built their social lives around access to child entertainers. And the industry knew. The industry has always known. Elijah Wood, a man who has been acting since he was 8 years old, confirmed that this network is still operational, that the people responsible are still being protected by the entertainment industry elite. He compared it to Jimmy Savile in the UK, a predator whose crimes were swept under the rug for 4 decades because he was too connected, too powerful, too useful to the people who ran the system. And Joe Rogan, who has been inside Hollywood's orbit for decades, said it as plainly as it can be said.
Don't let your kids get into acting. Do not let your kids get into that.
Not be careful, not do your research. Don't do it at all. Because the industry is structured in a way that makes abuse not just possible, but practically inevitable for child performers. Terrence Howard, who backed up Mel Gibson's account of what goes on behind the scenes, went further. He named child stars he had personally witnessed being abused. He talked about the mental health wreckage left behind, the addiction, the breakdown, the self-destruction that follows people out of the industry for the rest of their lives.
Who knows what happened to Philip? Who knows what Heath had to do in order to get to where he was at? There's a lot of things that people do that end up sitting and they can't get over it. And they got to keep getting high, hoping to get it out of their head. But when you lose your man card, that's the only thing I can think of. You lose your damn man card.
Heath Ledger, Philip Seymour Hoffman, 2 of the most talented actors of their generation, both dead from drug-related causes before they turned 50. And Terrence Howard, a man who knew both of them, who moved in the same circles, who has been inside this industry his entire adult life, is sitting there asking a question that nobody in mainstream media will touch. What did they have to do to get where they were? And what did it cost them? This is what Katt Williams means when he talks about sacrifice. Not metaphor, not hyperbole. Real human cost, real lives destroyed, real people who entered that machine as children, were chewed up by it and never fully recovered. And the system that did that to them is still running. The executives who enabled it are still in their offices. The network that protected the predators is still in place. Which brings us to the most important question in this entire story. Who sits at the top? To understand how Hollywood's dark system actually functions, how it has survived for decades, how it protects itself, how it silences the people who try to expose it, you have to understand Jeffrey Epstein. Not as an isolated predator, not as one weird billionaire with a private island. You have to understand Epstein as infrastructure, as a system within the system, as the mechanism that connected Hollywood to politics, to finance, to royalty, and to every other sector of elite power, and held all of it together through the one thing more powerful than money: leverage. The Attorney General of the Virgin Islands, in an official legal proceeding, described exactly how Epstein's operation worked. Think about what that architecture means. It's not just transportation, it's isolation. You fly in on his plane. You take his helicopter to an island owned by him. There is no other way off, no way to call for help, no way to flag down a passing car. You are completely at his mercy from the moment you board that jet. And once you were there, once you participated in what was happening on that island, you could never speak out. Because speaking out meant admitting what you did. It meant implicating yourself. The footage, the evidence, the leverage, it stayed with Epstein forever. And it didn't disappear when he did.
And even after Jeffrey Epstein's death, those non-disclosure agreements are still in place and still enforced by the estate.
He's dead, and his operation is still silencing people. His estate is still enforcing NDAs, still threatening potential witnesses, still protecting whatever secrets are buried on that island or in those files. This is the architecture of control that Katt Williams has been trying to describe. This is what selling your soul actually looks like when you pull back the curtain. It's not supernatural, it's contractual, it's photographic. It's a system designed to compromise powerful people and then own them forever. Harvey Weinstein operated a similar system on a smaller scale, but no less institutionalized. His company didn't just know about his behavior, they budgeted for it.
Did you see his contract? It was in his contract. The way he had his contract set up was like they had a certain amount of money that he would have to pay if he had a harassment claim against him. It was like,
it was a thing for him.
Yes. Like he had so many claims. That's like first offense was $100,000. Second offense was $250,000. Third offense was $750,000. Fourth offense was $1 million. He had it written into his contract with Miramax.
Read that again. A payment schedule for harassment claims, written into his contract, approved by the board, accepted as a cost of doing business. This wasn't a secret kept from the company. This was company policy. And when you understand that the Weinstein Company literally wrote a into its operating budget. Then you understand why the entertainment industry's sudden outrage after the scandal broke was so hollow, so theatrical, so obviously performative.
I think it is moving forward. I think that light has definitely been shone into the dark regions, and it's painful, but it's a necessary thing for change.
Mel said that with the kind of measured restraint of a man who has known about these regions for a very long time, light being shown into them wasn't a surprise to him. It was a long time coming. Now here's the connection that most people are still refusing to make. Epstein, Weinstein, R. Kelly, Diddy. The media covers each of these cases as if they're separate stories, separate bad actors, isolated incidents in different corners of different industries. But Katt Williams has been insisting for years, and the evidence increasingly supports him, that these aren't separate stories. They're chapters in the same story.
Meanwhile, the guy was like hanging out with Oprah, hanging out with Obama,
Jay-Z,
everyone.
That phrase, "until suddenly he wasn't," is the key to understanding how this system eventually collapses. It doesn't collapse because people suddenly develop a conscience. It collapses when the protective network around a predator finally breaks down. When enough dominoes have already fallen that the remaining ones no longer have the protection of the larger structure. And right now, that structure is cracking. No conversation about Hollywood's power structure is complete without talking about the people who spent decades presenting themselves as its moral conscience while reportedly being embedded in its darkest corners. Let's talk about Oprah Winfrey. Katt Williams has referenced Oprah multiple times over the years when talking about gatekeepers in the Black entertainment community. And on the surface, that seems strange. Oprah is one of the most beloved figures in American media. She built an empire on empowerment, on healing, on the idea that she is the people's champion. But look at the record. Harvey Weinstein, Oprah's friend, photographed with him dozens of times, celebrated him publicly. When the scandal broke, singer Seal called it out directly, posting a photo of Oprah with Weinstein and noting with pointed sarcasm that she had apparently heard the rumors but had no idea what was actually happening. When Dave Chappelle walked away from $50 million when he refused the trap, when he let go of the salt, it was Oprah who brought him onto her show. And instead of exploring what he'd been through, instead of asking the hard questions about pressure and manipulation inside the industry, she questioned his sanity.
It's bigger than money, though, Dave. It's so much bigger than money.
Oh, no, it was bigger.
That line, "it's so much bigger than money," is not empathy, it's redirection. It's a way of making Dave's very rational, very clear-eyed decision to protect himself sound irrational, grandiose, unhinged. Because Oprah understood perfectly well what Dave was describing. She just couldn't afford for him to describe it clearly on her platform. This is the function of the gatekeeper, not to do the abuse themselves necessarily, but to manage the narrative around it, to position themselves as allies of the victims while maintaining relationships with the predators, to speak at award shows about how things are going to change while the system that made them powerful continues operating underneath.
I think those days are about to be over.
Notice what Oprah talks about in that clip and what she doesn't talk about. She talks about women being silenced. She talks about a broken system. She positions herself as someone who sees the problem and wants change. But she never not once talks about her own proximity to the people who ran that system, her own decades of silence, her own photographs, because that's how the machine protects itself when cornered. It doesn't defend the predators. It just quietly sidesteps its own role in enabling them. Richard Pryor saw this exact dynamic playing out in the 1970s. Decades before Weinstein, decades before Epstein, he was being taken to Hollywood parties by Flip Wilson and shown exactly what the industry's upper echelon actually looked like behind closed doors.
He took me to the parties. He took me to make me understand this is why I don't be around me. And so you seen the orgies. You seen the people that was the stars and that they was doing. And the smells and the looks in their eyes.
The 1970s, 50 years ago, Richard Pryor, a man famous for his own wild life, was so disturbed by what he saw at these parties that he carried a weapon for protection. Think about that. What do you have to witness to feel like you need to arm yourself at a Hollywood party? The system has been in place for a very, very long time. Here's what's remarkable about where we are right now. Every single thing Katt Williams warned us about, every pattern he identified, every name he gestured toward, every system he described has since been confirmed by events. He talked about Diddy before the federal raids, before the lawsuits, before the videos. He talked about it when Diddy was still untouchable, still at every award show, still photographed with presidents and moguls and musicians, still running the most powerful machinery in Black entertainment. He talked about gatekeepers controlling access to success in Black Hollywood when that idea was being dismissed as paranoid, as resentful, as a man making excuses for his own career struggles. He talked about ritual humiliation, the dress, the degradation, the public submission when people were treating it as a joke. A funny observation from a comedian who'd had too many run-ins with the law. He talked about what happens to artists who refuse to play the game. The pattern of manufactured scandal, manufactured instability, manufactured mental health crises designed to discredit anyone who steps out of line.
Brian Carey made a $100 million deal, and 3 months later, she's all of a sudden mysteriously crazy. Or Martin Lawrence punches through and he's waving a gun on the street screaming, "They're trying to..."
The pattern is identical every time. Reach a certain level, cross a certain threshold, refuse a certain demand, and suddenly the media turns. Suddenly there are stories about erratic behavior. Suddenly old incidents get resurfaced, new rumors start circulating, and the public is primed to dismiss anything you say next as the ravings of someone who's lost their grip. They ran that playbook on Mel Gibson. They ran it on Dave Chappelle. They ran it on Katt Williams himself.
When people are against the Illuminati, then they get punched in the face all the time. The press hates them, and nobody likes them.
He said that, knowing full well he was describing his own situation. He said it anyway. And now years later, after the Diddy raids, after the Epstein files, after the Weinstein trial, after case after case after case, confirming exactly the architecture of abuse and control that Katt Williams spent years trying to describe, people are finally starting to pay attention. The internet changed the equation. Katt Williams was right about that too. The old gatekeepers, the ones who could destroy a career with a single phone call, bury a story with a single conversation, they don't have the same iron grip on information that they used to. YouTube, podcasts, social media, these platforms created channels that bypass the traditional machinery entirely. And what's flowing through those channels right now is a decade's worth of warnings finally being heard. Mel Gibson said, "Hollywood is a bizarre place where the social contract requires you to make a deal with everyone, and eventually you will be over."
With everyone else, and it's almost unspoken that you are going to be over at some point.
I mean, as a matter of interest, do you think it's easier because you're an outsider who came in?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because it was glaring to me because I was an outsider.
That's not bitterness. That's not a man whose career went badly and who's blaming the industry for his problems. That is a man describing a machine he watched consume people for decades. A machine he personally tried to leave. A machine he keeps poking at through Sound of Freedom, through his public statements, through his refusal to simply cash the checks and be quiet. Because he believes the truth matters more than his comfort. The same is true of Katt Williams. Whatever you think about his personal life, whatever chaos has surrounded him over the years, on this subject, on the specific question of what Hollywood really is and how it really operates, the man has been consistent, detailed, accurate. So here's where we land. Harvey Weinstein convicted. His company knew. His contract said so. Jeffrey Epstein dead in a federal facility. His client list still largely sealed. His estate still enforcing NDAs. His island still sitting there in the ocean with whatever secrets it holds. R. Kelly convicted. The music industry knew for years. Diddy federal raids, lawsuits piling up, the walls closing in on a man who was photographed with everyone and protected by everyone for decades. And in every single one of these cases, in every single takedown, in every arrest and conviction and scandal, the same supporting cast appears in the background, the same gatekeepers, the same network, the same infrastructure of protection and silence and complicity. Katt Williams named the pattern. Mel Gibson confirmed the darkness. Richard Pryor described it in the 70s. Corey Feldman screamed about it in 2011. Dave Chappelle walked away from $50 million rather than become part of it, and the machine kept running. The question that remains, the one that nobody in mainstream media is asking, the one that both Katt Williams and Mel Gibson keep circling, is not whether the happened. We know it happened. It's documented. It's convicted. It's on the record. The question is, who else is about to fall? Because the dominoes that have already dropped Weinstein, Epstein, Kelly, Diddy, they were not the top of the structure. They were mid-level, powerful, yes. Untouchable, yes, until they weren't. But the people who used their services, who visited the island, who attended the parties, who sat on the boards of the companies that wrote harassment into their contracts, those people are still out there, still powerful, still protected, still, in many cases, celebrated.
But it doesn't take very long before you realize, or before it gets to you. It's cascading on you all the time. You can't get away from certain attitudes, from certain modes of behavior that this town and the industry dictate.
The house of cards is shaking. It has been shaking for years, and the people holding it up are running out of ways to keep the pieces in the air. Katt Williams was never crazy. Mel Gibson was never just bitter. They were telling us the truth. The only question now is, are we finally ready to hear it? If this video opened your eyes, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and drop a comment. Who do you think gets exposed next?